Hello my lovely Viking brothers and sisters, and welcome back to my channel. Today's 10-step build transformation video is going to be a little different. Today I'm going to show you how to build your very own Victorian house. Not a meadow starter home, not a stone or core wood material focus house. Today we're going real world for one of the most recognizable mid-19th century architectural styles. For those of you who may be unfamiliar with Victorian houses, I'm going to pop up a few examples on screen for you right now. They consist of eye-catching features such as rounded angles, popped out shaped windows like bay windows, wraparound porches, towers, turrets, and dormers, and really just a lot of decorative detailed woodworking. They were very, very ornate. If you've seen my previous videos in the series, you know what to expect. I'm going to start with this basic rectangular box house you see right here and add just one feature at a time, slowly transforming it into something much greater. My goal is to not only show how freaking awesome building in Valheim is, or to show off my specific build, but to show how you too can build your own incredible stuff by adding just one thing at a time. We're going to take things slow as I try to cover everything I think is relevant for each step. I go into some depth. For those of you who wish to jump ahead, especially through some of the earlier steps, I totally get it. I'll organize each step into nice little sections with links in the description for you to click on to advance to the next chapter. Without further ado, let's get to it. All right, level 0, our old friend, the basic box. This time, the basic Victorian box. This is just here, as always, as a frame of reference. Most of you Vikings out there, you can build this. This is just a simple little box, your standard square house. You just make a little perimeter, X meters by Y meters. You build some walls, you poke some holes in it to create a window, and then you line up the roofs at the corners so that it just meets flush with the edge. Standard, simple. That said, I have received many comments on previous videos joking about how, hey, even your basic box is better than anything I've built. I always do bypass this step a little bit, but I figured, what the heck, I can take a few seconds just to show, beginner builders, since there are a lot of new beginner builders, especially with our new Xbox brothers and sisters joining the party. It's been exciting to see a whole bunch of new players join the forums on Reddit and experience the joy of Valheim for the very first time. That's been a lot of fun. So I am just going to show a couple features here in this basic beginning form. Because no matter where you're at in your building career in Valheim, this remains one of the most fundamental, coolest experiences that you have in Valheim, where you're playing around with pieces for the first time, and you just see how easily they snap together, and then you can just add beams, and you can stack them up, and then you can make little windows. And it honestly feels so cool and freeing to see how easily you can construct a pretty nice, decent, basic house. So yeah, I'm gonna go through some of the beginnings of that. One of the first things you might notice is how, I have it propped up off the ground by these little 1-meter beams. That's partially, a style reason, but also it serves a very practical reason, which if you come around here, you'll see I got this little structure built right here. If you are working on uneven ground, then what this helps you do is achieve a very, very flat interior layer, despite the ground underneath being uneven like this. You won't need to just meticulously bust out your hoe and flatten the ground down perfectly. You can just prop it up a little bit off the ground, your whole entire house, and then regardless of what terrain you run into, the first floor can just be up and over that. So that's a simple, easy little hack to do that. Super quick. If you did want to even out the ground like we've got here, one trick that you can do, this is a true noob player trick, is use a combination of building floor tiles and the hoe while you're standing on the floor tile. and you use this, it is going to match the ground that you're aiming at to the height of the ground that you're standing on top of the floor tile. So you can keep kind of doing this little progressive, and you see how this one is built is kind of inside the ground right now. If you stand on this tile and use your hoe here, it's going to clear out that ground so that it matches the height of the floor tile you're on exactly. Little beginner bonus tip. Here we are, level 0, and we're already with the bonus tips. I don't know, I just can't stop myself. Coming inside, yeah, like I said, there's not too much more to show here. That was just basically, you know, in order to get started. The only other thing is, you might see this, it's a stylistic thing. When making these houses, you can just kind of rotate the floors a little bit every other one, and you can just build them around just like that. Just do every other tile, do it all the way around, rotate, and then do every other tile again until you kind of meet up in the middle, and you kind of get this little extra style look that you know, we're all builders here. We're trying to make our houses as pretty as possible, and it's the little things sometimes that add up. But yeah, other than that, this is truly a basic little house. You can just frame it out all the way across, and then you can put in your little interior pieces in order to, I mean, if you want windows up there, you can do windows there. If you want to knock these down here, you can just make nice tall windows. The world is our oyster. Do it however you want. Yeah, have fun with it. And that does not work there. Little rectangular window at the top. Not the best thing in the world, not the worst. Actually, you can knock these out. There you go. Now you got a little diamond shaped window. But yeah, build your basic structure, your basic box, play around with fun little window shapes, and that is the Valheim starter pack of building. Let's move on to level 1. Level 1, define shape and heights. Now, I'm doing a little bit more with this step than I typically do. As you can see, here's our little baby rectangle. Here is our larger double rectangle. I kind of combined 2 steps into one. I both started with the same width here, and I increased the length of it slightly, and I added the shape, which is a typical step in these videos that you've seen me do before. So we added our shape, but I also added height. I kind of wanted to just get this whole building at the height and relative size that we're going to want it ultimately. By the end, I kind of wanted to get an idea of, you know, how big of a house we wanted to deal with. But other than that, that's really the entirety of the tip. It's just important to kind of think about how big of a house you want. Now, a Victorian house specifically is always going to be a 2 or even 3-story house. They were always multi-level houses, so you do have to add a little bit of height, and you got to think about supporting that. For the ease of me just building this house, I believe I put in some iron poles, and I did that through the roof, and I ran them across the top. But yeah, as for everything else that you see, it's all a placeholder for now. So it's just to kind of give you an idea as you're growing, as you're expanding your house, poke some holes in. Where do you want the windows? Think about that stuff in advance. But this is just step 1. Let's add some height. Let's add some shape. Let's do some somersaults. Yeah, the only other feature that is definitely worth talking about here for this step is, and I talked about in the very beginning, one of the features of a Victorian house are gabled roofs. And what gabled is what you see right here. Rather than cornering off your roofs with these O-frames and doing it as such, and kind of getting this kind of canopy experience with your roofs, and then, you know, this wouldn't be up here. Really, actually, this wouldn't work at all because it's gonna go over the top of it, I believe. Maybe that would work. Yeah, that would work. Anyway, instead of doing that with your roofs, you are bringing your roofs to a point, and you have this is just the architectural style is just called, it's a gable front of your roof here. So you want a bunch of those poking out in your different faces and sides of the house. So we got one back here, we got one here, we did have one here, but I've mutilated it. But yeah, that's just something to think about. Everything else you see here is placeholder. We are going to be transforming all of this as we go. Just wanted to lay the foundational work down now. So don't worry if it looks ugly, we're gonna touch it up. Level 2. Overhang those roofs. This is almost always going to be a tip in all of my videos, so get used to it. Yes, let's look at what we've done here. I've talked about this in all my videos, so I mean, I highly encourage you to check out my other videos. Of course, the basic Meadows house, or like the Meadows farmhouse that I did, is the poster child for just like basic tips that you can do to improve and transform any kind of house. This is going to become a Victorian house specifically, but this tip will almost always apply. You can see the difference that this adds as we get right here. We got some sun in the back, maybe. Let's go time of day, 0.4, a little bit more toward the morning. And look at the shadows that creates. As always, this game, the beauty, so much of it comes from the lighting and the way the shadows cast. You got the sun behind the tree, you can see like the little rays of light right there, and you can literally see the light from these lanterns and from the sun behind the tree and all the shadows it casts, and the roofs. Adding that kind of depth is what achieves those shadows. So yeah, and you can just zoom back over here and you can see the difference between that and that. It's really night and day, and it's such a simple little thing you can do to your house. Not going to talk too much depth about that, but these are achieved. I'll just go through it as I've always done in the past. It's a really simple principle of starting at wherever your roof ended naturally, which in this case was, I think it was right here. This is the corner, and then you go out one, which is that beam is, then you go down one, and then you go out one more, and that right here becomes your starting point for your overhang. And then you can build your overhang up to your roof. Again, this is the gable front, and then you can even build it all the way around from that same point. So by going out, down, and then out in the other direction, you can achieve a full overhang wrapping around your entire house. Yeah, and then you can do fun little things with it. You can add the little spikes to kind of add further depth and detail. We have our lantern there. You can hang braziers off of one of these, both of these, multiples of these, and kind of create cool little effects. If you wanted a brazier hanging off of these, if you wanted these to be those cool, the wolves, the ravens, the dragons instead, you can have a lot of fun and add a lot of character to your side of your houses. And yeah, it just improves the overall look of your house. And we'll leave this one here and we'll move on to level 3. Coming around the corner to level 3, rounded front porch. Now we're getting into the cool Victorian house features I talked about earlier. We're incorporating some curves and a front porch. Porches are mandatory when you're making a Victorian house. Now I chose to utilize the space between the interior of like the kind of L shape of my house here. I thought this would be a perfect spot to kind of create a rounded porch and add some additional space inside. As you can see, I kept the outline right here just so I could show you guys. This is the added space that this adds on the inside of the house, which gives us an even larger frame. let me repair this real quick. We had a locks attack a short time before this video aired. Yeah, so we've expanded the size of the inside of our house, and we added this cool little feature from the outside. Now I can walk it on back. Well, let me just talk about a couple things that I chose to do right here. First thing you'll notice is I moved the front door previously. I think we had our little porch right here and our little entryway. I turned this into a kind of prominent front panel of our house. Just, you know, these are placeholders for now. We're going to dress it up and maybe do some cool things with this later. But we got some glass windows and some of the new diverger metal plates, which look really cool. One of the features of Victorian houses that was very popular is they use stained glass window, which doesn't exist in Valheim, of course, but I think these diverger windows really come close to kind of creating the same effect. And actually, if we go inside real quick, that when you see again the lighting, the shadows that casts, that really kind of creates the effect you're looking for. And I think that has a lot of potential. We can really work with that as we get into the later stages of your build. So I encourage adding things like that, or adding the dark wood dividers, because the patterns and the way that plays on the light and the shadows is really, really cool in this game. All right, talking about curved porch itself. Really, you know, I chose to do it right here. You could do it wherever you want in your house. I could have made a curve right here. I could have popped this out and started curving it around in one way or another. I'm not sure if this would meet up perfectly. I went one too far there. It will not. But you're really free to play around with it, and maybe you want to extend this to a back porch, and then it wraps around and becomes a back porch as well, and wraps around your house. Just going through the kind of things that you can add to your very own Victorian house in order to kind of make it look like that cool, give it that cool Victorian aesthetic. So just to show the mechanics of building this porch a little bit, because there's a couple things we want to talk about. I'm going to scoot over here. And over here at our level 2 house, I'm going to recreate the same porch real quick. First thing I did, you'll remember, is I decided because I was making a porch right here, I wanted to actually have this effect where we're walking up onto the porch. The staircase leads you up onto the porch and then through the front entrance. So I was moving my front entrance. So the outside porch went something like there, and then the stairs to it went something like there, and then our doors to the inside went right here. This way there's this kind of effect of hopping up onto the porch and then through the front doors and into the house. And now this represents the inside wall, and I'll just don't know if I need that. I'm not going to worry about it. So now the inside wall layer is simply, I just did one rotation again. I just wanted to try to establish that rounded curve, and I think that looked pretty good to me. So just went with that, and that was the first phase of it. And then I just added in the floors all the way around. It's always easiest to kind of do floors when you're working with a round building by working from the outside in. You can always snap to those outside edges, and you can just kind of keep snapping, keep snapping, keep snapping. And then for the end, you can just cap it off just like that. That covers. Now we got our basis for the shape and where we want the inside of our porch to be, but now we need the outside of our porch. We have the part that's actually going to be outdoors on the front porch, and we're going to walk around. And from this point, it occurs to me I have an opportunity here to teach you guys about a geometric principle that exists in Valheim. Something you may have observed is that Valheim rotates on 16 points, essentially. So if you were to just build on the ground here and do one rotation, one rotation, one rotation, one rotation, you are going to get a 16-sided polygon circle. with these 1 meter beams, and that is the smoothest circle that you can create in Valheim without mods. There are mods that allow you to add additional rotation points. Gizmo, Odin's Hammer, I believe, are a couple of them. I've never really played around with them, but I know they exist. But in vanilla Valheim, you are restricted to 16 rotational points. And what I've done on the inside of this porch, this is, remember, the front porch is going to wrap around a little bit further along the outside here and meet up somewhere over here. So that's going to be the outside. This is going to be the inside curve. I've done only 1 rotation. And ideally, if you want to maintain perfect uniformity with your outside circle, you would want to work from the inside and build beams out from each of the joints at a fixed angle, and then you would want to try to connect those beams. You'd want to do something like this, and then you'd want to connect like that. But you're going to notice here, they overlap in this weird way. They don't quite line up. And the reason for that is because we've done a 1/16 rotation with each of these. In order to get these to line up, you would need to actually have access to be able to do a 1/32 rotation in between here. So we wouldn't need that point or that point. You would actually need somewhere in between there. You would need your beam to end up somewhere right around here. But we don't have the ability to do that. But just to demonstrate what I do mean, let's divide those all by 2. Let's build, instead of a 16-sided polygon, let's build an octagon over here. So 2 rotations, 2 rotations, 2 rotations, and 2 rotations. And say this is the inside, and we want to build an outside perimeter that's dead even all the way around. You want to snap these on the in-between. So you're not making a right angle there, you're not making a right angle there, you're going in between, going in between. And then from here, we can snap, and you can see they line up perfectly. That's because we did 8-sided rotation in there, and out here, we were able to do, for our connecting beams, basically, there's room to do the in-between rotation. But here, there's not room to do that because we don't have access to 1/32 rotations. So that becomes unavailable as a building technique for the outside of this porch, because I'm trying to make this nice round porch. So instead of doing that, what I did was I manually lined up something. I just kind of took a look at it and manually lined up 3 meters on the outside. So I started and I just did 3 meter connections, 3 meter connections, 3 meter connections. And I thought, for my purposes, because again, this is just, it's not a semicircle, it's just like a portion of a porch, and we're gonna have a roof that comes up over it. It doesn't have to line up perfectly. I'm not creating a perfect tower out of this outside portion. So as long as in the end it looks like it lines up and it looks nice, you can kind of manually disconnect your outside from your inside. But that's kind of, I would consider that a more advanced building technique, and that's kind of, you're manually playing around with things. So don't expect things to snap and connect perfectly as you build this inward. But yeah, so let's just continue building this to kind of see how it all ends up on fitting in the end, and then we can return to our more completed porch over there. Here is, so you'll notice this is not touching the ground, so we need our 2 meter beam. Here's just a little bonus trick. If you can't get this to snap in like that, what you do is you put it just on the ground slightly behind, and then point your cursor over it, and then it will snap no problem. Alright, so next feature that I knew I definitely wanted to do on this porch were our awesome little, put these on top, our archways. So now that I have these posts, I can put the archways on like that and snap them in again. I'm just gonna fly so to get a better angle. And Here we go. It will eventually go right in there. And then on this side, you can snap it there. All right, and let's add a roof to our porch. And I wanted to do a similar kind of overhang like we talked about in the previous section, because we always want to make sure we add that depth. And in order to achieve that, you know, you're gonna have to pop it out by a meter. But you'll notice we're gonna have to do this in 2 spots at every joint. And that's gonna become our overhang. It's gonna be a little bit of, well, not overlap, but they're gonna connect like this. And this is how you achieve that. So I'm popping out our circle basically even a little bit further. And rather than going with like an in-between spot and trying to connect from there, I'm actually just connecting each side of the polygon separately. So these become our roof spots where we can, or the beams off which we can build our roofs. And let's just give the last spot there. And I'm just going to show you a couple of them before we go back over there. Because this is a porch, I want to create a little bit of contrast. We use the 45-degree roofs for our main steeple gable roofs. That's a feature of Victorian houses, steep roofs. Honestly, for some of the stuff, I would want to go even steeper than 45 degrees, maybe like 70, like a super sharp. But Valheim does not allow that, so we're working with what we got. But, you know, to create the roof from here, start from both of those points. Snap, snap. Snap, snap. That one didn't snap perfectly. And so on and so forth. And you can kind of continue it up by snapping directly off of both pieces again. And we've talked about it in previous videos, but these dark wood tiles really blend in nicely. Much nicer than the thatch. And there we go. You see, we got the makings of a beautiful little front porch here, curved, and we're going to try to blend this right into the sides of our house for now, before we continue our build. All right, now let's zip on back over to our completed porch, and you can see just continue the snaps up here. And by the time we got up here, I was able to just create another single rotation perimeter. And, you know, not entirely sure what we want to do with this in the grand scheme, but I figure for the purposes of just showcasing this step, it's great that this shows an alternative option. But I created a little balcony at the top here, and added another gabled front to this roof by popping out a dormer here out of the roof. Just to using the I-frames, you can just pop out the roofs and create these nice little dormers, which again I've gone over quite a bit in previous videos. And, you know, overhang the dormer, created a little 3 meter, actually it's a 4 meter entryway. Yeah, and cozy little balcony on top of our porch, and we walk in here. This would be the makings of our second story, and yeah, we'll go from there. The very last thing worth talking about, Victorian houses, as I mentioned, incorporate a lot of detail, and one of the reasons I use 3 meters is so that I can achieve this even effect, and I can use things like the dark wood dividers 1, 2, 3 without them overlapping in any way that looked really weird. And then I also chose to use the wooden shutters, which have that nice little pattern on the inside there. And you probably notice I had to pop out the shutters slightly manually from the wooden dividers, because otherwise they kind of overlapped. So this is like a manual building technique to add that detail, where I think I probably built off of the ground, and I just probably manually placed it by holding shift, and I placed it a little bit in front of the porch there just to add a little bit more detail. Optional, but in this case, you know, I'm just trying to make it as ornate as possible, which is very, very prevalent in Victorian architecture. And that concludes level 3. Let's mosey on over to level 4. Level 4, add a circular tower. Now I know we just did all the effort to round off a nice little balcony up top here, but I knew I wanted a circular tower in this build from the very beginning. We talked about that earlier on. A circular tower is a kind of staple to a Victorian house. So I wanted to add a really nice one, and it made sense to put one along that inseam of the porch that we built. I thought that would look really, really nice here. And at the end of the day, remember, we're here to show you options. These are things that you can add to your very own house. So maybe you want to go this balcony route, balcony plus a dormer. Maybe you like the idea of putting the circular tower here. Maybe you want to do the balcony and dormer here, and then you want to add a circular tower on another part of the house. You can build, there's no reason why you couldn't build your own little section right here and then build a tower up from there instead. These are the kinds of things that you can add to your house to make a Victorian house if my character would only stop somersaulting. All right, anyway, yeah, just take a look at what I did here. We talked about this in a previous stage, but these diverger metal sheets, I forget what they're called exactly, diverger metal walls look beautiful. They resemble stained glass. I think I overlapped them because we've only got a 3 meter height here, so, and each of these are 2 meters, so it's 2 meters up from the ground and then 2 meters down from the top, so there's a little bit of overlap there, but I think that actually looks kind of nice, so I chose to go with that. Also using the diverger lanterns, I think those are most in line with maybe real world's Victorian era. These lanterns, certainly they don't look like Viking lanterns, but they remind me of, like, you know, the 1920s, the 1910s, you know, streets of maybe London or somewhere. But I thought they would look really nice, and as I kind of created the circle, still using our 1 rotation, I put those in at every window, and I thought they ended up on looking pretty nice. Wow, what is with the somersaults? Control button. I need to hit control to go down, but then that puts me in a crouch. So for now, for this phase, I was just interested in getting the tower in here to see how it looks, and you know, we can continue fitting everything after this. But mostly, if you really want to see the difference this makes on the inside, before this was outside, where I'm flying right now. This was basically the outdoor balcony. And now you can see it adds a lot more indoor space, and we're gonna try to make good use of that later on as we really expand our Victorian house up into its 2nd floor, and we give it, you know, a proper bedroom or proper 2nd level and all of that. So adding a tower like this adds a lot of interior space while also looking pretty badass from the outside, if I do say so myself. Now this tower fits pretty well here, but you probably notice, especially on the inside, there's some weird roof clashing that's going on there, but we're just trying to get it in there and see how it looks for right now. When it comes to making a dome like this, it's really easy to it's surprisingly easy to, especially with the dark wood, because again, the dark wood hides all the blemishes very, very well compared to the thatch roof. But I just have, again, a 1 rotation perimeter along the outside of the circle. So it's a 16-sided dome, and then I'm just snapping roof pieces in from there, and then a 2nd roof piece directly lined up on top of each other. And that kind of all, if we were to knock this out and remove that, you'll see it comes to this perfect little cone right here. And then it's just a matter of capping the roof off. So it's really easy to create a little dome. Now what you'll notice that I did here, instead of doing down here, was I created a separate overhang. It's the same methodology, using 1 meter pop out and then a 1 meter pop out from the other angle. So 1 rotation and then pop it out twice, and then create a little overhang. And I'm just using wooden floorboards here to create the nice little stylized overhang look, which I think, especially in conjunction with the lanterns, looks really nice. Just a note here, and I've talked about this in the past, these will take rain damage. I personally use the mod called No Rain Damage to prevent that from happening, because I love being able to build detailed woodwork like this outdoors without worrying about having to constantly jump up and repair it. That's just a personal preference. That's available as an option to you guys if you like it. Personally, still hoping that the developers add like the ability to, you know, coat wood with resin or something like that to make it water resistant and prevent rain damage natively within the game. But just to go back up here, if you wanted to cap off a dome like this, you might struggle a little bit if you're trying to add this on. Actually, you know what? That worked pretty reasonably well. Yeah, actually that worked perfectly. If you are struggling with it, what you can do is you can place down a ground board inside, and then you can use that as a point on which to place your roof tile. But you'll notice it has a little bit of a gap, so just cap it off with a little X on both sides, and you should be good to go. If you want to add like a little bit more detail, not even detail, it's more just like sometimes adding trimming like this can help cover up things that would otherwise be blemishes, and it really kind of squares it off nicely and makes it look finished and complete. Other times it's difficult to kind of get that board in there. You might have a little bit better luck with 2 1 meters, maybe not, but you get the idea. You can fight with it and get it to work. Anyway, that is our tower. That is level 4, adding a circular tower. Level 5, add roof layers and dormers. Returning viewers to the channel will recognize this tip as well. Again, I'm using a lot of the same advice for all of these house builds, but this time we are applying it to a Victorian house. Let's do a little bit before and after, or after and before, since we're already on this house. As you can see, we've made some adjustments to the way our roof, our turret, meets the main roof of the house up here. Let's just swing back over here so you can see how our previous one was. We focused first on just building the tower and building the cone and then cutting it through the roof, just make our circle and see how that all worked out. Now on this step, we're really gonna try to mesh it into our roof in a more organic and a cleaner manner, and that's what I strive to achieve over here. So really, I wanted to make the roof meet at the same height that the tower met. You don't have to do that, but that's what I wanted to do for this one. You could build an even taller tower that goes way up above the roof you've got going on here. But that's what I chose to do for this one, and I achieved that by adding basically this slight vertical extension that pops out from our old roof. And this is achieved pretty easily by, let's swing back over here and let's mess with our previous build just for demonstration purposes. We want to do it 4 meters in or 2 meters in. So we'll do it 4 meters in. Basically, you will take the wood wall inverted, and you can do that at both parts, and then you can take your wood wall not inverted and layer them right on top of each other like that. And you would do the same thing on this side, and instead of that beam there and that beam there, we knock them right out, go back to our inverted ones. There we go. Get out of there. There we go. And that becomes your new height for the roof, for like an added layer that gets added to your roof. Not only does that add a layer to the exterior of your roof, but it adds a lot more space inside. If we fly down here and we look up, you can see up here how it raises the roof even higher, and that's gonna give us a lot more room to work with inside when it comes to building out the second floor of our house. Now, let's just go back outside. Yep, after I capped it off here, I added the interior frames to make it meet up at a 90-degree angle with the tower roof right there. And then I wrapped it around and I popped it out on the other side, and this is where we get to the dormers I spoke of. Now this one's actually, I don't even know if this is technically a dormer. This is more like a bay window that's jutting out of like the wall of the gable front of this roof. But it's kind of like a hybrid dormer. A dormer is essentially a window that pops out of a roof, because it's acting as like a dormer to this roof here, but it's acting as a window to this gable front here. And then over here I did my classic skylights, if you guys will remember from the Meadows house video, just to show like different options that you can do. Now I think I actually, in a later version of this house, might transform this into something else, and again, you can accomplish that very simply by doing something similar using these same inverted wood wall beams. You can just take your roof pieces. I'd probably go with the shallower slope if I can find it, which I cannot sometimes. There we go. And you do something like this. I don't have my snapping game on today. We shall persevere. Might do something like that to turn this into another kind of dormer, and that'd become a wall dormer there. But I went with the skylight for now, just for demo purposes. And yeah, I think overall, really just try to achieve a cleaner, sleeker look. Adding this doubles up as it's multifunctional. It adds space inside. It brings it in line with the tower. It adds an extra vertical layer that gives like the side of your house more character. Anytime you're adding depth, anytime you're adding layers, it looks a little bit nicer. The last thing I want to point out before we move on to level 6 is these kind of beams that you see that I added to the top of the roof here. I just want to talk about why I added them here, which can hopefully make you guys help make kind of informed decisions like this on your builds. So for me, this arose out of two reasons. I didn't do it for an aesthetic purpose because I thought, oh wow, I think this is going to look really good and I'm going to add this trim. It emerged from a problem I was trying to solve. The first problem was on this side, I built these dark wood dividers in this diamond window that I created here. But you'll notice that in doing so, that creates this little protrusion through the roof. So part of my effort to conceal that is to kind of just add a little extra beam, which I manually kind of placed over the top of that in order to, it adds a little bit more depth. It doesn't particularly look fantastic, but you can always add trim like this to kind of hide blemishes. This is a theme you're going to be seeing over and over again in many of my builds. And in the end, like if you were a passerby, you wouldn't even notice that there was a blemish there necessarily. You might think, hey, that's kind of a cool design. But I encountered a similar issue in the roof up here, and I think I encountered it over on this side, and I will delete these ones to demonstrate. When I decided to create this dormer right here in the form of the skylights, that only left a 1 meter roof cap, only left space for a 1 meter roof cap up above it, which, as you can see, has a different style roof. It has like that kind of flatter surface. Let me delete that beam right there. And that looks really weird to me. I was just a little OCD about it. It looked a little weird when it was running into the non-roof capped side. So if some of my roof had these fat and flat beams from the roof caps, and other parts of the roof did not have the roof caps because I couldn't put roof caps in all spots, such as where these I-frames meet up there, then there was like this disconnect between the two styles. So in attempt to hide that, I kind of did this manual layer just like this. And then, as you can see, one across the top doesn't quite hide it, so then I manually put a second layer on the side and then on the other side. And at the end of the day, I was like, you know what, that looks kind of nice. And then I just did it to all of the roof, just to kind of keep it with a uniform, clean look. And yeah, sometimes hiding a blemish or hiding something that you just can't quite figure out how to make it look nice is the catalyst for inventing a new little trim technique, and that's kind of what happened here. So explore with playing around with adding trim to spaces and parts that maybe look a little unclean or unfinished, and yeah, that's kind of my bonus tip there. Level 6, chimney. Always got to add a chimney to our house. This Victorian house is no different, so come around the back. This one should be a pretty quick step. Here it is in all of its majesty. A standard stone chimney. Looks pretty similar to chimneys I've built in the past. Looks like we got a chunk missing from the top of it, so we'll just patch that up real quick. Yeah. With a stone chimney, essentially go around to the inside. You just build it around your hearth. So place your hearth on the ground and then start layering your stone blocks around it, and kind of try to add like a fun little interior to it. I like seeing the smoke rise up off the ground. We'll go back outside real quick, and not much to talk about with a chimney like this. You're just building it around your hearth, you're building it up, you're making use of the stone. But yeah, it's always a fun little thing to add chimneys that add shape, add a little bit of depth to your house. And because there's not too much you can do with a chimney generally, that's why I try to have fun with like adding little details. Like we talked about Victorian houses before, they were really decorative and ornate. There's a lot of fine detail. So I just went with the crows, and I kind of laid them right in there into the stone facing each other, added some lights, added the dark wood trim up the side, and I completely experimented with a different kind of chimney topper. I manually laid out the length. It looks like it's 5 meters on the inside, even though it's a 6 meter in length chimney, just to kind of make it a little bit smaller inside. And then that created like this weird, it didn't quite come up to a point, so it was a flat little section, and then I manually created another little higher point, and then I just layered in 2 roof tiles. Play around, have fun, add some chimneys to your house. They always add a lot of character. One point I will want to make here is you'll notice like this is like the world's fattest chimney. Like these basically don't exist in real life. You're not going to find a chimney this fat, even though it's like the size that you need in the world of Valheim to accommodate your hearth. Just to kind of show this is more of like what a real world Victorian house chimney would look like. It's a tiny little stone column, you know, like 1 meter by 1 meter in length and width. I just threw this over here. It's completely non-functional, obviously, but if you're just going for an aesthetic to build a modern kind of house or like a real world kind of house, and you just want to like the imagery of a chimney, that's maybe something you might do. Just have like a little stone column popping out of it that looks a little more realistic, in line with our Victorian vision. But this is a Valheim Victorian house, so we've got to have our big hearth and our big chimney in there. But that's about it for level 6. Moving on to level 7. Let's make our way up onto the hill for level 7. Wraparound porch, a cornerstone Victorian house feature. You must include a wraparound porch. And I had this entire section of house where I got nothing going on the outside for this whole main side part here. So I decided to just do a big long wraparound porch, and we just give it a nice little walk through that. Windows on one side, 1 meter in length, and it just wraps right around to our chimney on the back. And then I added a little back door here because it made sense. If we have our porch here, it's not a porch to nowhere. It would be really annoying if it just ended and there was a wall here. So I needed a staircase to get off the porch here, and I added a door, a back door to the house to get in from here. Yeah, not too much to say. Play around with the details like I talked about before. It's a Victorian house, so we're trying to add as many details as possible. So two things that I did is I used the wooden shutters to kind of create the wraparound fence, and then I added these the old fine wood dragon statues that I just used those as details. I thought they kind of looked really cool because I had the X pattern on the bottom underneath the porch. And here I thought it kind of looked like it was a dragon coming out of that strip there and a dragon coming out of that strip there. One thing to note when trying to get these on here, they did not like to cooperate. Like if you have one dragon in here, the other one would not snap into this point. So there was an element of holding shift down to manually place them. You're sometimes gonna have to do that when you're playing around with it. So I think I probably like knocked this out, and like right now you'll see that's snapping, but I think I had to actually just manually hold it over the beam like this, knock this bar out at the bottom and place it, because two of them weren't able to snap into the same point there. Other than that, yeah, basic little wraparound porch. One of the easiest things you can honestly add to any kind of house to really give it a lot of personality and character, and it's a staple to a Victorian house. We still have our overhang roofs up here. Those were just reference beams. They didn't need to be there, so I knocked them out. I do like, as an option, to use the 26-degree roof tiles for the porches as a nice contrast to the steeper roofs. Now, Victorian houses are known for having really steep, sharp roofs, much steeper than 45 degrees. Honestly, you probably want like a 70-degree roof in there. But for the porches, a lighter slope looks a lot nicer, especially in contrast. Now, the one tip to tell you guys here is we've got a 2-meter porch. Let's pull out our piece. 2 meters right there. Boom. We wanted a little bit of an overhang, so we did a 1-meter overhang using our 1-meter beams. That's how we accomplished that in the corner. Now what that means is we've essentially got a 3-meter length for our porch roof, which means if we were to build this properly all the way into all the way off of itself to cover the full 3 meters, you're gonna get that situation where that's popping into the inside of your house. So in order to mitigate that, I created my overhang by popping it out 1 meter. I built my roof tile off of that, and then rather than connecting to this one, I just manually, holding shift again, overlaid this on top here until it met flush with the wall of the house. And then once you lay one, the rest will just snap in together. And I did it for right there, and then I did it again right here and wrapped it all the way around. And honestly, you can see it if you're really looking for it right there. And maybe if you want to cover that up a little bit more, you could potentially do so with this beam. Possibly not. There you go. That gets in there. And then there's another slight layer. Yeah, that doesn't necessarily look the greatest, but you understand what we're trying to achieve there. But yeah, so sometimes you just got to make use of a little manual placement to kind of get it to fit exactly the way you want. But other than that, yeah, now we added a wraparound porch to our Victorian house, and it's really coming together, really starting to look like a Victorian house. All right, that's it for level 7. Level 8, add death skeetos. Just kidding. Add pop-out windows. In case you guys were wondering why the death skeetos aren't disturbing me, it's because I am using dev commands to make these videos, and there is a command called ghost, and that allows you to be basically invisible. But now I'm not, and now you see I'm immediately attacked. Ghost again, and I will become invisible again. I'm also in God mode, so I don't take any damage. We don't want any mishaps while I'm trying to create for you guys. Anyway, that's why I generally live in peace and harmony with the critters of the world, because they just don't even see me. Anyway, on to the tips of this video. Pop out windows. You can see the change that was made to the front face here of our Victorian house. Essentially added a lot of extra depth and detail by just, instead of building our windows right up alongside the surface of the wall, just 2 clicks, pop it out. And then I think I started up top with the balcony. It's just like making a bay window, honestly, which I've covered before in my previous videos. But you just pop it out, rotate and connect, and then you create a little surface. I'm just doing a variety of different things up here. And coming down here, we wanted some glass. Like, generally glass looks a little funky in Valheim, in my opinion, but it always ends up on looking pretty nice as part of the prominent front face of your house. And, you know, all windows are glass windows in real life, so that fits perfectly for a Victorian house. But again, just popped it all out with detail. And even after just popping it out a little bit, you'll see I still had even a little bit more trim. Do whatever you can to make it ornate and really, really pop out. So I created this little trim here and along the ridge, and I thought that looked a little nice. And that created little nooks to add these banners on the side, little recessed banners. And finally, our dragon statues again. Who knows what that looks like? Kind of looks like, you know, almost like a Chinese type of dragon, you know, classic traditional decorative piece there. But even though it's our Victorian house, I just thought it looks pretty cool. Play around with the materials that you have. So that's the front face there. Come around to this side, much simpler window. Same concept though. Rather than just building the window up against the surface of the house, this time I didn't pop it out at an angle, I just popped it out directly. 1 meter, boom, 4 meters across, 1 meter back in. And you don't have to always use right angles, so I played around with it and I just did the in-between angle for the vertical beams. Used our dark wolves, which I haven't used before for these houses, so I figured, heck, again, why not? Let's just play around and see how it looks. Doesn't look too shabby. And then ladders, just to show you guys again the options, the different types of things you can do. I did a ladder right here, come around to this window. I did an actual roof, so I did the full roof. And rather than using just the simple little dark wood divider pieces, I used the classic pre-hearth and home technique of using the fine wood stools. And nothing too crazy or fancy here, just stack the stools on top of each other, created a little windowsill on the outside, you know, a nice little ledge upon which to toss your fresh baked pie, just like they did in the Victorian era. Left this window as is. I could have popped it out, but I left it as is. I think nice little contrast from the overhang roof already, so keeping that flat kind of works well there. And of course we already had our pop out kind of bay window / dormer situation up here and the skylights. So yeah, just add a little bit more character, as my camera goes a little crazy, add a little bit more character to your house by popping out the windows wherever you can. And that's it for level 8. Move on to level 9. All right, almost there. Level 9, interior decorating. Now, I'm not going to go full on interior decorating, but I more want to show you guys some options that are available to you for like defining the spaces and the areas inside your house. I think this is where you can really make your house feel like a home. We've architecturally designed and built our house now. Looks great from the outside. Let's journey inside and see what we can do to shape it up. Let's just do a quick before. This is what our house was previously. Interior, a lot of space, gaze up and around. Got a little nook up there, got our skylight, got this nice long chamber here, got a circular area up there, nice tall roof here after we popped out our extension up there. A lot of space to work with, and so it's a matter of how can we divide this up to kind of make it feel a little cozy. All right, now coming back in, we'll see some of the stuff that I chose to do in this house. First thing, the first task that's always difficult to kind of figure out is how do we create stairs to get up to the second floor? Where do we want our second floor to be? Exactly how high? Now, if you're ever really struggling to come up with the perfect spot for stairs and it's just kind of not working out, and me personally, I like to use regular stairs to create that smooth walk. I found, as just like a high level rule, a nice trick is to just create your staircase right along one of the sides when you walk in the front door. So if you walk in the door directly to the left or right, you can just build your staircase and then have the stairs essentially go up and come out like right near where your front entrance is. And that does a couple of things. One, it can create this cozy little under the staircase section that you walk into. It's like, you know, a decorative little entryway with some shelves and stuff, and that actually can look pretty nice and cozy. And you see here, I just use some item stands. It's a small little trick to create little books, and you know, just a couple little item stands to just toss on various little items of different color to just make them stand out a little bit. And then if you just wanted just to use it as storage instead, that's kind of what it would look like. Or you can even throw down your little, if it will allow me, these things, then you can open it up to see your chest. Something like that. So that's the first little tip and trick here. And now this just happened, like I could have continued to make storage here, but as I was coming through here, and so what the staircase did was it sliced the house in half and kind of created some organic rooms. Like, so this could easily become a nice, long, cozy living room down here with great lighting, windows all around, and then the big prominent lighting from the south side over here. Little seating area. I didn't fully decorate with everything. I'm just kind of, again, showing you guys options for how to define your space. I think that's the most important aspect of making a house feel like a home. It's not necessarily the intricate decorations you do, but more just about how you divvy up the house to make it feel kind of cozy and give each part of it, each space, a little purpose. So some more cabinets under here. And the way you do this, by the way, is you have a 2 meter space where the stairs is, two meters side to side like this. You actually can just go 1 meter in and then build a wall. So you create your own little bookshelf on this side, and you also create your own separate little bookshelf on this side. And it kind of serves, you know, it creates 2 cozy areas for the price of 1. Rather than having to walk all the way around, I chose to make kind of like a little foyer in between area here, and I just turned this into like a little coat closet, a walk-through closet. Walk in, hang up your coats. The jack-o'-turnips still have those available, so I built those there. All right, there we go. Let's move on. The other major part or tip that I've talked about in my Meadows video is like add layers. If you don't want to build walls to define your rooms, and you don't want to just completely block off everything and make it feel really confined, and you want to kind of keep this feeling of like it's open and you can see across the whole build, just add a little layer like this. And looks like we've been attacked recently. I remember hearing a Lox attack before I fought them off. Here's where it was. Let's clean that up real quick. Okay, we're good. Good enough. Man, they really got me. They wanted to come in. They heard me talking about pie on the windowsill, and they came looking. All right, so create little layers. So I didn't build walls. I just built a little fence up here. So this could be like a nice little entryway. Yeah, a little mudroom area. And then we can have a little, maybe this is a drop-in kitchen, and then this is a little dining area. Don't quite know. This could be the living room area, and can find another purpose for that over there. But just by adding like this little, it's just like a 1 meter down, and you'll notice the staircase actually goes into the ground there. I'm not going down a full length of the staircase. You don't have to abide by any of these rules. You make your own rules. So this is like a partial drop. And I think it just kind of creates it creates the visual separation that this is its own space, and then this is its own space, and it even has its own little entrance with the door right here. All right, that covers the bottom level. Let's just go upstairs and see what I did temporarily. Mostly just wanted to give us our nice little cozy little bedroom. And after we did this little thing by raising the roof here, it really created this awesome opportunity with this space where you had like this cozy little nook. And I just decided to toss in our big bed, little raised bed, simple little technique you can do if you want to add a little bit of, you know, flair, pizzazz to your sleeping situation. Just raise it up by 1 meter, create a little platform, toss your bed up on it, and then you can just build a little staircase to get up to it. Something fun that I saw other builders do and I stole it. No shame in borrowing techniques. We're all inspired by each other, and that's the whole point of this. Yeah, and then this was something I came up with myself. It was just a little sconce, create a little lamp, just cover them with item stands. Let me show you how to do that real quick if you are so interested, because there's just a simple little technique to it. In order to get it actually looking nice, you can put the first one as close as you want. Now the problem is the second one, you have to build off of it just to give you the base, and you want the right edge of this to be kind of flat with this. But now you notice that will look a little wonky. It's going to go too far to the left, so then you right over that you take one and you line it up with the edge of the first beam you place. Now you can delete that second one. That's just a placeholder, and then you can slide in the last one, and it kind of looks much cleaner. And it's not so close that the flame doesn't burn out. Got a nice little lampshade, little dressers, pretend these are drawer handles, and a little bottle of water by your bed. Built a second hearth up here, something you can always do with your big stone chimneys, as long as you have, I think it's just like 4 or 5 meters of space between hearths. That's plenty for the smoke to go up, and they don't burn out, they don't choke out, so you're good to go there. So I got a fireplace downstairs and got a fireplace upstairs. And then over here, this monstrosity is my forever attempt at making bunk beds. Just got a 4-bed situation here. Not too easy to walk in under here, but nice little cozy space for the children. And a space up top starts to look like a spaceship. But honestly, and I created a balcony here to kind of continue to create that open feel, and you get to look and experience out that front window. Totally don't have to do that. And in fact, I kind of think, as I'm looking at this, I probably would opt to, go with something more like closing this off completely. I'd probably want that to be its own room, and for this to kind of be its own room as well, sealed off, nice and clean. Or maybe I'd go from here on over. That'd probably make more sense. Yeah, that'd make much more sense. Anyway, just kind of divide up the space in a fun little organic manner. And that's what really turns your house into a home. And that concludes level 9. Let's move on to level 10. Well, guys, I'm not quite sure what to say. If you're thinking at this point, what the hell, Homitu? How is build 10 more buildings a step to improving your house? I get it. All I can say is I honestly did not plan for this to happen. This was not in my notes. Let's just build a whole farm and a couple windmills and a barn and a whole world around our house. That wasn't my intention at all. So if you hear me laughing, it's because I'm as surprised as you are. This truly, it became a build. It became a full build in its own right, and it's clear to me now that I don't know where we are in the overall video editing after this all gets edited and put together, but I think we're approaching, if not have exceeded, the 1 hour mark. There's a lot for me to go over here, so it's clear to me now that I'm probably going to be making a part 2 where I will cover all of the fun little things I did here in my landscaping. I took our Victorian house that we built and I kind of turned it into a Victorian farmstead, and I'm just walking around to here as I talk now, but I'm not going to go over any of this again. I'm going to leave this. I'm going to do you dirty. I'm going to leave this as a cliffhanger. If you want to hear me talk about the making of this, what exactly happened for the last 3 days of my life, where one thing led to another, one idea after another just kept kind of piling on, and then this all transformed into what it became, well, you're going to have to wait and click on part 2 when I release that. But yeah, as far as the tip that I intended to, the advice that I intended to go along with the landscaping tip is simply to illustrate the awesome effect you can achieve when you treat the design of the landscape around your house with the same care and passion that you apply to your house itself. You know, you have the house itself, you have the interior, and then you have the space around the house. And what you do with the space around the house can like do more to make this a part of the world and a natural part of the world at that than anything else. And like it really brings the build to life. As I'm so pleased with how this came out. Like I'm just kind of, I love, this is my favorite part where you just get to bask in your creation and enjoy everything that's going on here. Well-ordered farm. And the windmill's over there. I got my barn. We can go pet our tame boar. Yeah, so that's the key takeaway. Just work on your landscape with care, and just try to do stuff to the outside of your house and add stuff, add little clutter, add little barrels. Yeah, but again, we'll go through. If you want to see more details about this, watch part 2. Other than that, the only other like broad strokes tip that I will leave you with at the end of this video is, for much of my 10-step transformation tutorial, you see me working over here on huge swaths of flat land. And I do that because, I'm copy and pasting houses essentially, and it's much easier to just build a house that's on flat land and then to copy and paste there than it would be to build a house that's built on a hill and then having to like terraform the land exactly in the same style hill in order for the house to fit on it. But I'm really glad that this turned out the way it did, because I can show you how useful it is to actually not just flatten everything all the time, work with the lay of the land a little bit. Like if you got a little bit of a hill or a plateau, then build little tiered structures on it. Don't worry about flattening everything. Have the hill over there. Use the levels to kind of build your paths up steps and like make little turns and curves and go with it. Build your walls up around it. Like the ground up here is higher than it is down there, so I built a little wall that goes up and around it, and that can make everything just look a lot more natural and a part of the natural world. It looks really cool. Even right here, you got like a little slope right here. The ground is slightly sloped. It's not perfectly flat. So yeah, that is it. I will leave you guys with that. Thank you guys so much for watching, and like anybody who sticks to the end and gets to bask in like the glory of this insanity with me at the end, I truly appreciate it. It still boggles my mind, like these videos end up on being so ridiculously long. I don't know how I'm able to talk for this long about it, but the editing process is its own beast, and I swear I try to cut it down as much as I can. But I try to make it accessible where you can fast forward as much as you want. It's got little chapters in there, or for people who want the detail, I try to provide that detail. And to anybody who's here at this stage of the video listening, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Yeah, and see you guys next time. Take care.